In the year 2012, the city of Mumbai was in deep shock. If people were not safe in the comforts of their really posh apartments and their well guarded flats, then where were they safe? Both the Samarth Angan apartment building and the Oberoi Springs were well guarded societies with cameras and guards on duty 24/7. Then, how did two serial killers end up killing people in the comfort of their own home? This is the story of the fear that gripped Mumbai city under the reign of a Mumbai serial killer. This is the story of 5 victims. Hi, welcome to Collectively Vigilant. I'm Dr. D.
And I'm Sam.
Okay, Didi. So the story I'm going to tell you today has 4 direct victims, and these victims are actually a decade and a half almost apart from each other. However, the one common thing they have is that all the crimes were perpetrated by a couple. So let me start by telling you the origin story of all the players and characters in this story. The Bonnie and Clyde, if you will, of Indian criminals. Let me start with the femme fatale of the duo, who was a small-time Bollywood actress. And that's perhaps the reason why all these crimes garnered so much media attention. We'll start with the first person of the duo. Her name was Simran Sood, who was born in the early 1970s, not as Simran Sood, but as Seema Surinder Kumar Dosanjh. Her father was Sukhdev Dosanjh, who was a professor of botany at Punjab Agricultural University, and her mother was Dimple Dosanjh, who was a chemistry teacher at Arya College, which, by the way, is a really famous college with a very strong science department. And just so that there is no confusion, in many parts of India, teachers who teach grade 11 and 12 are called lecturers, and in many parts of India, grade 11 and 12 are called junior college. So just in case someone was going to mix that up, I thought I'll just say it right there. Now, I have to say that there are 2 different pieces of information that I gathered about her family. One stated that her father was actually the head of the geography department, and the other one, as I said, was her father was from the department of botany. As something that I can definitely say for sure is that her father was definitely a professor, and her mother was definitely either a teacher, or in one of the newspapers they claim that the mother was the principal at some point. Maybe she started as a teacher and she later was a principal. I'm not completely sure about what she retired as, but at some point she was definitely a teacher. Now, also one more thing, that according to one of the newspapers, she had only one younger sibling, the brother that I just mentioned. And then according to another newspaper, she had a brother and a sister. So I'm not completely sure, but I just wanted you to know all this information. But as you can tell, the family was very academically focused, and the parents wanted all of their children to become academics and scholars, or at least become respectable members of society. The other 2 siblings actually ended up fulfilling the parents' wishes, and one of the newspapers reported that the siblings actually became professors later in life. However, Seema always had different dreams. As a teenager, Seema became a well-known face amongst the young women in Punjab after she participated in fashion shows in Chandigarh. She always wanted to be a glamorous person, and she always wanted to make a name for herself in Bollywood, not only as an actress, a model, but some newspapers and some books also claim that she wanted to be a singer and that she had a heavenly voice. While in college, she solidified her dream even more when she auditioned and won several modeling competitions. Now, one of the books that I read as research for this episode said that when Seema was still a teenager, she was so interested in singing that she looked for opportunities all over Punjab, and one thing which fell in her lap was she ended up auditioning to become a background singer for the famous bhajan singer Anup Jalota. At this point, she was 19 years old and she was already in college. But Simran's mother, Dimple, did not approve that she should go singing in a bhajan troupe. It is basically devotional singing. Not because they were not religiously inclined, it was a deeply spiritual family, but they just did not want to see their daughter end up harming herself in any way. Little did Seema, or you can even call her Simran, know that the person that she was auditioning for was very famous in industry circles, not only as an alcoholic, but allegedly also as a womanizer. Apparently, it was very well known that this singer would often call upon the women who sang in his singing troupe to his chambers later after singing sessions to please him in other ways. However, Seema, or you can even call her Simran, didn't know all this. She was just someone who was deeply inclined in towards singing. She had this beautiful singing voice, and when she saw an advertisement in Savvy magazine, she basically contacted them and she auditioned for them, and she cleared a couple of rounds, and then she eventually got to sing in front of the singer himself. After she finished her audition in front of the singer, she did inform him that she was a fine arts student at the university and that she had never officially actually learned how to sing, but she was just so keen at learning that she really wanted to join his troupe. She also informed the singer that not only was she also informed the singing troupe during their auditions that not only was she interested in singing, but she actually had certifications and diplomas from Punjab University in dance as well. Now, her father, Sukhdev Dosanjh, the botany professor, was at first extremely reluctant. However, later on, both the mother and the father gave in to her wishes, and she was able to convince her parents that she would be singing and dancing full time. And then she told her parents that she knew as a fine arts student that there would be, as a fine arts student, she knew that this was the line she wanted to pursue. After she'd been formally accepted as a part of the singing group as a backup singer, Seema finally left Ludhiana and then made her way to Mumbai. Not only was she this fabulous singer, but she was extremely beautiful. As I said, she had won several modeling awards as well. So she knew that once she would step foot in Mumbai, not only would she be exploring the world of singing, where she already seemed to have some standing with the Anup Jalota group, but then she would also perhaps be able to make some money off of being a model and an actress. So after singing on one particular day, after her performance was done, she made her way to a restaurant called the Copper Chimney Restaurant, which is an extremely popular restaurant in the Andheri area. Not only was it a restaurant which was famous back then, however, it still actually goes on today and they have several branches all over. At the Copper Chimney Restaurant, as Simran was looking around, she could see that everyone there was extremely well dressed, seemed to be quite rich people everywhere. The cars parked outside the restaurant were also very fancy, quite expensive. And that's when the person who was her waiter slash concierge person in the restaurant was a man called Vijay Palande, who was basically the head steward, and he makes his way to Seema and becomes her waiter for that night. As time goes on and Seema goes time and time again to the same restaurant, she expresses to him her hopes and dreams of staying in Mumbai and not only being a singer, but also becoming an actress. And with the help of Vijay, she finds a place to stay in a duplex house where she did not have to pay too much rent because her new friend Vijay chips in to give her furniture, pay her rent, so on and so forth. And that's when she refuses to join the singing group and she stays full-time in Mumbai from then on. However, a few months pass, and despite giving so many auditions and going for advertisements here and there, she was not really making too much of a living in Mumbai. And by that time, around 10 months had passed and she did not see too much success. Vijay tried his best. He even introduced Seema to his friends, which included several directors, several music producers, so on and so forth, people who would regularly come to the restaurant, and the kind of people that he had struck friendship with over the years of being in the hospitality industry. So the year was 1997, and by this time, because she was constantly dependent on Vijay, it seems like Vijay and Seema by 1997 had fallen in love with each other. And Seema even took Vijay back to Chandigarh, back to Ludhiana to meet her family. Her parents disapproved of this match. Simran knew of Vijay to be some sort of a property dealer slash person who works in a hotel, so on and so forth. However, by this time, Simran had understood that life in the maximum city, which is Mumbai, would be extremely difficult, and she really wanted to fulfill all her dreams and desires, and she knew that she couldn't do it alone. Simran had seen the good life and she wanted an extremely luxurious lifestyle. By 1997, with the help of Vijay's money and some of the money that she had earned herself, she went and got some plastic surgery done in the US and then took many subsequent visits to try to upgrade her looks. Not only in Bombay but also in Dubai. Not only in Mumbai but also in Dubai. But little did Simran know that she was being played by Vijay. He wasn't the rich person that he was portraying himself to be. Vijay was a man with several aliases and had many underworld mafia connections. Vijay himself first came to Mumbai as a grade 9 student from his native district from Chiplun, Maharashtra in the mid 1980s. However, most of his family was still settled in Borivali or in Mumbai's western suburbs. Vijay was a moderately bright student who really wanted to study hotel management and go to Mumbai because he nursed a dream of starting his own chain of 5-star restaurants and hotels in Mumbai. He studied hospitality and started working as a waiter at the Copper Chimney restaurant, which was a very well established restaurant still in operation in Mumbai and in many parts of the world today. Vijay had made acquaintance with several rich people and he aspired to be one of them one day. He was apparently really charming and he could walk up to anyone and speak to them. Despite not looking the best himself, he was apparently quite charming and was able to charm people into connecting with him. And one of the people that he connected with and started shacking up with later was a German woman called Levi Braganza. At some point, Vijay even started working for the underworld don Santosh Shetty. When Vijay came to know that Simran had all these expensive hobbies and big dreams of earning money and becoming a socialite, a singer, a model, he proposed to her. And despite her family's reservations, Vijay and Seema got married in front of the Andheri court in 1998 after 2 years of courtship. And then it was settled. They had decided to tie the knot and now their destinies were intertwined forever. By the time they got married, Seema knew that Vijay would help her with money, pay her rent, buy her clothes, and generally look after her. Seema knew that Vijay had underworld connections, which is why he was able to make so much money on the side. His day job did not pay for much of anything in their life. He always harbored these dreams just like her of becoming a wealthy person and becoming a bigwig in the big bag city of Mumbai. And to accomplish this, he would smuggle drugs like cocaine and other methamphetamines for his boss Santosh Shetty and would occasionally be jailed because of these drug runs. By marrying Vijay, Seema had severed her relationship with her family back in Ludhiana, and from Seema, she had now completely transformed herself into a woman called Simran Sood, and she saw some success come her way. She auditioned for a rap group in Juhu with the rap artist Devan Patel for a movie called Smile Please. So in this movie, she was able to get herself a small role as a model and a dancer and also was a background singer. Despite being able to get some work here and there, her acting efforts in her low-budget film Smile Please did not lead to anything bigger. And by this time, Vijay and Seema were both living in rented accommodations all around Mumbai. Even as a renter, it's really difficult to secure an apartment in Mumbai. However, Seema had bigger dreams. She wanted to own her own apartment with Vijay, and she wished to live there and establish a beautiful life. At this stage, Vijay Palande, who worked in the Copper Chimney restaurant part-time and then part-time as a drug dealer, had a chance meeting with a man called Swaraj Ranjan Das, a resident of Juhu. Swaraj Ranjan Das was a man in his mid 50s, a burly man with a wheatish complexion, who would often visit the Copper Chimney restaurant, and Vijay would always serve him as a waiter. And after years of serving him as a waiter, Swaraj Ranjan Das had confided in Vijay that he wanted to start his own hospitality business someday and would also like to invest in apartments. Swaraj Ranjan Das even introduced Vijay to his son, a man called Anup Das, and Swaraj's wife, Usha Das. So basically, Vijay knew the entire family. The Copper Chimney restaurant was a favorite location for the Das family to come and celebrate their birthdays, have their get togethers, so on and so forth. So Vijay was a constant fixture in their life for years. Slowly, over a long period of time, Vijay was able to elicit information out of Anup Das that he was looking after the pension fund of the retired Air India employees, and in fact he was also working on two building projects that were commissioned by the Air India to build apartments for their retired employees. Vijay Palande got a sniff of the Das's family wealth, and he realized that this could be the ticket of his dream of owning an apartment where he could live comfortably with the love of his life, Seema. Soon thereafter, Vijay introduced Seema to Anup Das and his father, Swaraj Ranjan Das. Vijay's plan was really simple. He wanted Seema to charm Anup Das into giving her all financial details, his bank details, all the location of their money and their properties. By this time, the Das family was trusting of Vijay so much that they even let him apply for an apartment that Anup Das was making for the entire Air India Union. Anup Das was the Air India leader, and he was so trusted that the company had given him access to the pension funds, and he alone was authorized to sign checks for all the construction projects of this building, which was for the retired employees of Air India. By getting close to Anup Das, Seema was able to gather more information. By this time, she knew that Anup had a sister and a brother. The sister was married and lived away, far away in Kolkata, and she even knew how much money the family had in their PPF accounts. All this time, Vijay was in and out of jail on several drug delivery offenses, and he would be in jail for a few months and then come out, so on and so forth. However, Seema continued to climb the social ladder, and she was making a way for herself in Bollywood with the money that Vijay was supplying to her. And she continued to get really close to Anup Das. And at this time, Anup Das didn't know that Seema was already married to Vijay, because in front of Anup Das and the entire Das family, Vijay and Seema would pretend that they were brother and sister. While he was locked up in Kolhapur jail, Vijay Palande had befriended a man called David, who was in the jail for kidnapping and drug trafficking. Vijay thought it really smart to enlist the help of David so that he could get his hands on the apartment that Swaraj Das already owned in Juhu. He wanted to get Swaraj Das to sign some papers so that they could take over, so that Seema and Vijay could take over that property and then kill and murder not only Swaraj Das but also his son Anup Das. They particularly wanted to get hold of the property in DN Nagar. Armed with the information of Anup Das's and Swaraj Ranjan Das's entire financial details, and with Seema pretending to be Anup's girlfriend, Vijay Palande was able to get Anup Das to sign some papers in which was his power of attorney, among others, and then on the pretext of taking him on a trip to the hills of Mahabaleshwar, he sedated Anup along with his associate and fellow criminal David and strangled Anup Das to death. He then burnt his body and disposed of his body. This was Vijay Palande's first known killing and murder, and Seema, who by this time called herself Simran Sood, was a key accomplice in accomplishing this entire operation. The duo, David and Vijay, later killed Anup Das's father, Swaraj Ranjan Das as well, and the modus operandi was the same. They drugged him with sleeping pills and then cut his body into pieces and threw his remains in the ravines of Kumbharli Ghats.
Okay, just a second. How did Swaraj Ranjan fell for Vijay's ploy?
Okay, so the interesting thing is that Vijay Polande, of course, had such a long association with the family of Swaraj Ranjan that when his son went missing, the family did not even know that he had gone missing. They were under the impression that their son had just gone with Vijay for some sort of a business meeting. So Vijay was able to lure Swaraj Ranjan to his apartment, the apartment that Swaraj Ranjan owned in Juhu, and that apartment had already been taken over by Vijay and his so-called sister, Simran Sood, and I'm doing double quotations in the air because we all know by now that they were actually married and they would just pretend to be brother and sister. So this person Vijay made sure that Swaraj Ranjan comes to his Juhu apartment, and when he was in the Juhu apartment, just like they had done with his son, not only did they beat him up and torture him and sedate him, they even tried to make him sign uh, power of attorney papers so that the apartment could be transferred from Swaraj Ranjan's family's name into the name of Simran Sood and somebody called Karan Sood, a person who doesn't even exist. It was just one of those aliases that Vijay Polande basically was using um, at this point. Another thing I have to add is after the killing of Swaraj Ranjan and his son, Vijay Polande in 1998 gets arrested and, with another person called David that I had already mentioned in the story. And actually, they were arrested, they were taken into prison, and in the year 2000, some newspapers say the year 2000, some newspapers say the year 2002. So I'm not sure about which year, but this person is set out on bail, and that's when he flees the country, takes on the alibi of another person called Kanu Bhai Patel, okay, and he basically flees the country, gets a fake passport, runs away to another country. Some people say it's Thailand, we are not sure. He went to several different places and gets plastic surgery done. And Simran Sood is basically, by the way, both of them were extremely fond of getting plastic surgeries done. So they're basically going all over the world with this mafia money that they had, and they're getting plastic surgeries done. And in the name of Kanu Bhai, he actually comes back to India, is merrily living his life with Simran Sood, and the police, no one's the wiser. Okay, nobody really knows that this happened. However, he had run away from the country and he'd even come back. Okay, Didi, so I've told you about these two murders that these Simran and Vijay had perpetrated, the killing of Swarup Ranjan Das and his son Anup Das. However, the story does not end here because we have so many more victims to come. But we're going to continue that the next week. So look out for the next episode where we will continue with the story of the Bollywood siren and her husband and the honey trap that they had going. So until we see you again, stay collectively vigilant.